we are too focused as an industry on the zero. Are we actually putting in the effort in the right manner? You could be that person standing at a door that says pull on it, and you are pushing as hard as you possibly can, and that door's not going to open. Like, we at some point in time have to allow kids to make mistakes and it not be something that they are yelled at for. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are going to be talking about a problem that I think we have across the industry that we need to address sooner rather than later. Now, before we get into the episode, I want to make sure that you've headed on over to Cheer and Gymnastics Gym Owners on Facebook if you are a gym owner, All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners if you are a coach or a coach and owner, and nextgenowners.com to check out all of the offerings of Next Generation Gym Owners Academy. Wow, I didn't say that well at all. Where you can also book a call to hop on the phone with me or Justin or one of our team to learn more about what it means to join the Academy and how that can help you grow your business. I'm going to get into the episode, which is titled Houston, We Have a Problem. And it is a major problem that I think we have in the cheerleading industry. And it was talked about a little bit by Jeff Benson when we were at our conference. In his keynote, he was talking about some of the focus on perfection, and he was also talking about growth mindset and how to, create a psychologically safe environment for athletes. He also talked about it in some of his classes. And then I kind of had this aha moment this weekend at our competition. And that aha moment was kind of random. So I'm going to explain what happened, and then I'm going to tell you kind of where I think we went wrong. And I'm going to talk about, some of my concerns and then some of the things I think we could be doing differently. It's one of those, everything started with good intentions and now we're kind of in a weird spot. So we are putting this pressure on athletes that I don't know if it is fully healthy. I'm a big believer in pressure. I'm a big believer in training athletes to be better versions of themselves and not being easy on them, right? Because life is hard and they need to have hard experiences and they need to be able to perform under stress. They need to be able to do all of those things. But this happened this last weekend where our junior 3 team was going into finals. They were in second place. They were first in line for an at-large bid to Summit. They were in line for it. They should have been getting it. And the very first stunt sequence, the first stunt hit, and then there was a transition and it went bad. And one of the flyers fell and she was caught. And legitimately, I'm not even joking, that in her cradle, as she was falling into her cradle, you could see the look on her face. And she made eye contact with me and her other coach. And I don't coach the team, but made eye contact with us. And you could just see, she was like, I just ruined it for everyone. Like, that was literally the realization that she had in that moment of like, I just cost this for the team, because our coaches told us we got a hit today. We had a drop yesterday. We were lucky to be in second. The team behind us had a drop. So if we're going to stay here, we've got to actually hit our routine. And I didn't hit, and I dropped right at the beginning of the routine. And you could just see that happen with her. And on top of that, I also had an experience with my own daughter, who Jeff and I chatted about on the podcast, who has a major perfection streak. And she had a bobble on day 1. And I mean, she was devastated. I mean, just, hey, I was having the whole conversation with her of like, hey, issues happen. Like, people have deductions. It's okay. And she's like, it's not okay for me though. I can't have that. So the Houston, we have a problem is a couple things. Number one is we are too focused as an industry on the zero. And I understand where it came from. I understand that it came from a good intentioned world of, hey, don't worry about your placement, worry about hitting zero. right? Yes, you may not get first place, but you hit your routine. You did your best. It was about putting your best foot forward. And we would give out these buttons, you get your hit zero button, and we would post videos about it. This team hit zero, and hitting zero became kind of the be all end all of success. And back when it first started, it was kind of at a time, and maybe I'm getting old and I'm not remembering this correctly, but there were lots of teams that would hit zero, and the top 3-4 teams had zero deduction routines. Now I feel like more and more and more, I'm seeing teams win their division over teams that hit zero, even though they had a deduction, because they scored high enough on execution in all these other areas. So even though they had a drop, they still win because they had enough skills in their routine to hedge their bets, and they, didn't cost them any of their drivers, and they still go out and win the division, even though another team hit zero. Hitting zero became kind of this elusive thing where it was like, well, now we sucked if we didn't hit zero. And at least if we got second place but hit zero, we could be proud of that. But what if we got second place and didn't hit zero? Now it's just this utter failure, and I didn't hit. And it has created this environment for athletes where the moment something goes wrong, the moment there's an issue, they know they didn't hit zero. Like if that athlete touches down, if that athlete has a bobble, in their head, they're like, I messed it up. I ruined it for the team. And it creates this kind of negative atmosphere for the kid. Instead of being like, hey, you touched down, it's okay. It's 0.25. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not that big a deal. It's probably not going to cost us the win. And if it does, that means we didn't do well enough in other categories. So it's, yes, like we have the pursuit of the zero, and I understand it came from good intentions, and I'm not even saying we have to do away with pins. I'm not saying anything like that. Obviously there's going to be deductions. I'm saying that taking away the emphasis on the zero is important as a coach. And I'm going to give you the flip side of this, which is something that I did this last weekend. So my level 4 team, they won, which was awesome. They had an amazing weekend, but they didn't hit zero. And in fact, on day 1, we open with 5 stunts while people tumble, and they open with these low to high ticks, and one of them didn't hit. Right in the beginning, within the first 3 8 counts, we had a drop, but then they got back up and they did their kick full. And instead of allowing myself to go to that place where I'm like, dang it, and not be celebrating for the kids and be excited at the front of the mat, I just went ham. I yeah, it's great. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. I wasn't holding up the zero sign. I wasn't lying to them, but I was freaking out, like giving them the thumbs up, like, yeah, you got it. You're doing great. And their energy kept going. It kept building, and they ended that routine. It was fire. The entire arena was lit up. Like everyone was into it, even if they weren't fans of our program, because they were just killing the mat. And it would have been so easy to be focused on the zero, to be like, well, you lost it, right? You didn't hit. That was our goal, is to go out and hit. And we didn't hit. They still won. They still actually earned a bid, but they didn't hit their routine. So I had to change the way I reacted and realize, hey, it's okay. Like, it's growth. We're getting better. And you had a great routine otherwise. So you had 3 seconds of your routine today wasn't great and wasn't perfect, but the rest of it was fantastic. So why are we fixated on that 3 seconds? The other thing I think we're doing, and I don't know how we fix this, is the focus on perfection. Like, we at some point in time have to allow kids to make mistakes and it not be something that they are yelled at for. Like, yes, they can still get the correction, but they have to have the freedom to make errors. I've talked about this before on other episodes, but it's so pointed. One of my good friends, we coached our Worlds team together for quite a few years. And this was back when we were large co-ed. So we were the only large co-ed gym from the Pacific Northwest in the Worlds division. And we had some really good years, but we coached those kids hard. Like, we had to, because we grow these kids. Like, we don't get a ton of kids moving here to join our teams. Like, it happens every once in a while, just like it does for everyone, but we don't have people flying from all over. And I'm not doing a woe is me sob story. I'm just saying, to get to the level that we get those kids to, it is a hard push. Like, we are putting kids on the team that don't have all the skills, knowing that we're going to train them. We're putting them on based on potential. We're not whittling down from, 45 people down to our 32. We're starting with 26 and then finding more people throughout the year to get to those large co-ed numbers that we got to. And when she retired from coaching, she told me, she said, Dan, I can't tell you how great it is to be able to go home at night and not be angry over a kid not doing their Hy-Vee on the right count. That has always stuck with me and it's something that Jeff talked about, right? Like in his keynote, he talked about putting your self-worth in the performance of a 12-year-old. It's just such a critical statement. Like we have to be able to find that balance between pushing for perfection, but understanding that it is truly an unattainable goal and enjoying the journey in the pursuit and teaching the kids to enjoy the journey of the pursuit of perfection, the elusive thing that they will actually never attain. And it's important to tell them that it's okay not to be perfect. And I had this happen for me this last week with that level 4 team I was talking to you about. I've already told Jeff about this. I came back from our conference and my level 4 team had been having some struggles. We'd just come back from winter break, so they weren't all there. And I walked into Tuesday's practice and I turned to my co-coaches and I go, hey guys, I'm not going to be able to channel the Jeff Benson today. Like I have high expectations. They're going to live up to them. I'm going to be a tough coach today. And they did their first full out and it was bad. Like, I'm not even joking, horrible. And I was mad. I was not happy with them because it was next level awful. And instead of going off on them and instead of being like, you're horrible and you suck and I can't believe you're being like this, which I would never say you suck, but you know what I mean? Like instead of just giving it to them, I took a deep breath and I talked to them about what was going on. And we had a whole conversation about what the problem was. I went to them and I said, you guys, we can't do this. We cannot have a perfect warm up, do all this stuff, go out and then have, no stunts in the air. And that just can't occur. So you tell me, what is the issue? And one of the kids raised their hand and they were like, giving 100% effort. People aren't, and I go, okay, raise your hand if you're not giving 100%. Like, I understand it may not have hit, but you tell me, like, honestly, who is out there not trying 100%? And of course, no one raised their hand. I said, right, because I don't think any of you are not giving it your all. And for me, giving 100% is giving 100% of the capacity you have that day, right? You may be sick as a dog, so your 100% is not equal to what you're capable of giving 100% on when you're feeling healthy, but I still expect you to give everything you have that day. So we agreed that that was not the issue. It wasn't that people weren't trying 100%. So we wiped that clean. I said, okay, so we know people are trying hard. I go, but are we trying hard in the right ways? Are we actually putting in the effort in the right manner, right? Because you could be that person standing at a door that says pull on it and you are pushing as hard as you possibly can, and that door's not going to open. Like you're trying as hard as you can. You're giving 100% effort, but you're giving 100% effort in the wrong way. And so if we give 100% effort in our stunts, but we're just chucking things and we're not focused on the things that we're doing, we're trying in the wrong manner. And so we had a conversation about presence, and not presents like Christmas, presence, being present in the moment. And I asked them, I said, hey, who here is, when they're in a section of the routine, worried about something that is to come or has come or has already passed? And like everyone raised their hand. I'm like, there's our problem. You're in one moment, but you're thinking 3 steps ahead. You're not present here. And you have to win it 1 8 count at a time, 1 skill at a time. You have to be fully present and fully invested in the moment that you are in order to execute that as well as you're capable. If you're only giving it 70% of your attention because 30% of your attention is focused somewhere else, you're less likely to be successful. And we had a whole conversation about that, and we did some more full outs, and they, on their 4th full out, they hit. And then the next practice, I 100% did not live up to that standard. They did their first full out and they started, and it was next level bad again. And I did speak loudly and I told them, I said, if you guys aren't going to be here, if you're not going to be present, if you're not actually going to take advantage of these minutes in the gym, then what are we doing? We're wasting our time. And if you don't want to be here, then please don't. Then please go join a class or do something else, because there are people here who want to be fully invested. And that includes full investment of your mentality, right? Yeah, I need to be present here in this moment. I need to be able to deliver, right? I can't just only show up when it feels good or comfortable. And we had that conversation. It was a great practice. They recovered from it. They did phenomenal, and they had a great weekend. But because we shifted the focus away from the perfection, and I actually had a conversation, I'll digress one more second. I did not write this script. I'm just talking to you guys. I had a conversation with them at the end of both practices where I said, no, it wasn't perfect, but sometimes good is great. Good enough can be absolutely great sometimes when it wasn't good before. So yes, we're pursuing the perfect routine that we can't mess up, but that's impossible. The best basketball players in the world, the best athletes ever, have had issues, have had off days. We're always going to pursue, and we're always going to try to be a better version of ourselves. But that's all I can ask for, is that you continue to push and continue to try to be a better team, a better routine, a better person, a better teammate every single day. Reframing things like that, I think, was very important for that team, was very important for me, and is something I think we as an industry need to remind ourselves of. Is that at the end of the day, these are kids who we have the opportunity and the privilege to mentor. And although I'm not sitting here saying you have to be rainbows and sunshine. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you can't be tough on them. I'm not saying you can't be demanding, because I think those things have benefit, but it has to come from a place of love. It has to come from a place of wanting the best for them and wanting them to be successful. It can't come from a place of insecurity in your own self-worth. And I think that is the hardest part, because we as coaches, we invest so much of ourselves, of our heart and our soul and our energy. And we watch videos and we review routines and we look at bids and we do all of this stuff just to try and help our kids get that little edge up. And it can sometimes be very exhausting when you don't feel like they're living up to what they're capable of. And you feel like that's a failure on yourself. You take extreme ownership of that. And sometimes you have to remember that these are human beings who have their own free will, and we cannot control everything. We just have to do our best to guide them to make the good decisions. The last big thing that I think we are headed towards a critical mass in is the focus on end of season events. Now, some of you have already gotten past it, and I think it's fantastic. Good for you. But training your families and your athletes to not make the entire season about making it to a prestigious end of season event. Because really, what is that saying? Well, the majority of people are not going to go and win Summit or D2 Summit or All-Star Worlds. So you get to have a really great experience, but you are fighting and perseverating over this opportunity to go spend a whole ton of money to compete at an event that you're probably not going to win. And that's okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the focus needs to not only be on that. If everything you do is focused on making it to the end of season, it makes for a very miserable year, and it can make for a very disappointing season if you don't make it. And I think that puts an undue stress on kids. And I've seen that stress firsthand, because Worlds teams have always had it. And it's always been stressful, right? You're stressed out until you get your Worlds bid. Well, now it's the same thing. You're stressed out until you get your Summit bid, or you're stressed out until you get your All-Star Worlds bid. And for Summit, you're stressed out until you get your at-large Summit bid or your wildcard bid, but then you're stressed out until you get a paid bid, because you got to keep upgrading. And I think that we've created a monster in our industry that I worry for. Do I have the solution? No. The answer is continue to train your parents that it's not all about the end of season. Continue to train your athletes that it's not all about the end of season, because before you know it, you're going to be at the end of season, and that 2 minutes and 30 seconds is going to be the determining factor in people's minds of whether or not you were successful that year. And it just shouldn't be. It really just shouldn't be. And I'm telling you this from the perspective of someone who's gone to Worlds and placed well. We've made it to finals. We've beaten talented teams and but we've never won. And we've gone to worlds and we've not made finals. And if that is your be all end all of whether or not you win, whether or not you make it finals, whether or not, like, yes, it's good to set goals, but don't let that be the defining thing of your season. All right, everyone, I've dumped a lot of different thoughts on you and I haven't given you a ton of answers. As you leave the episode, the big thing I want you to do is just think about these things and go, am I not contributing to the problem? Am I doing things the right way? And if you are, great, good for you. You're fantastic. That's great. Keep going. Then look at, are my coaches? And if they are, great. You are killing the game. If they're not, then reorient. If you're not, figure out how you can reorient to have things better align with creating that safe environment for athletes to make failure and grow. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, check out some other podcasts. I've got our little collab here at the end of the episode, so make sure you check that out. But Jason Larkin's podcast, Let's Talk Cheer podcast, and the Cheer Mom podcast. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.